Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a yellow rain warning issued for most of tomorrow for northern parts, as we're going to see parts of this rain band stall across northern England, giving a big deluge with many areas forecasted around 20 to 30 millimetres, so around an inch of rain. Not good for the big sporting events we have in the north at the moment, the Ashes up in Manchester and of course the golf up in Liverpool. So not looking great for those tomorrow, but there is a lot of uncertainty with the positioning of that, so we'll look at that in more detail when we have a look at the UKV, and then we'll run through the longer range, look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles. That is looking likely to be continuing with this cool and unsettled pattern. However, we're seeing a little bit of a change from the GFS. Again, it is most likely an anomalous run, but the GFS, right at the end of its 6 o'clock run from this morning, is showing a big heat wave by the end of the run, with that hot air that is sat over the Mediterranean at the moment heading our way under higher pressure, with the 20-degree isotherm just about reaching the southeast of England, which would equate to temperatures in excess of 35 degrees. And of course, if that heat did really build, we could be pushing the high 30s in that sort of scenario. But as we'll see in the ensembles at the end of the video, it really is an anomalous run. But of course, we'll have a look at it as it's the first proper hot run we've had in a while, with the outlook for the last week or two been really quite dire. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Hope you have had a great week. As I said on Monday's video, that most of the videos this week were pre-recorded, so I was unable to forecast videos. However, those shall be returning from now on daily, again with hopefully no hiccups for the foreseeable future. So we're back to daily content, and we're back with a bang with huge amounts of rain and a pretty dire day once again. And you can see at the moment on the live radar just a big wall of green in most regions. Luckily, much of northern England actually had a little bit of a better afternoon than initially anticipated. As we'll see from the UKV, it has a lot more of this lighter rain lingering, whereas what we're seeing at the moment is, yes, some lighter patchier rain with a bit of drizzle, but this gap between the weather fronts, the weather systems, is much bigger than initially anticipated, which has allowed there to be some play at Old Trafford in the Ashes, and the scene up in Liverpool doesn't look too bad for the golf either, whereas a lot of the weather apps and the models did show yesterday that it was going to be a complete washout. But we've seen a good few hour break now in the heavy rainfall, and actually looks likely to continue probably until sunset now. So should be getting another good few hours in at the Ashes game. And of course, up towards Liverpool for the golf should be pretty dry, maybe a bit of on and off drizzle throughout the end of the day, as the next weather system is moving in from the west. As I said, this gap was forecasted to be nowhere near as big and to be more full of more of this light and patchy rain. But for southern England, gap in the rainfall, drizzle and cloud, that's not what you're seeing at all. We're seeing heavy, persistent rain in many southern areas, but luckily into tomorrow it should be better. And those northern areas, this weather front heading in across parts of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and South Wales, South West England at the moment, is going to head northwards, pivot through much of the North Midlands, Northern England, North Wales. Into those areas we've got the sporting events through the morning, and then could pivot away through the afternoon into the evening. There is a lot of uncertainty whether it will just pull away, whether it loses intensity and then pull away. All of these different factors could decide whether the rain does diminish around midday or whether it carries on till 6, 7, 8 p.m. Very difficult at the moment to say exactly what is going on, but the Met Office does have a yellow warning issued, as at least for the first 6 to 12 hours of tomorrow, it is looking likely to be heavy, persistent rain with as much as 20 to 30 millimetres in places. The temperatures as of around 5 p.m. are pretty abysmal, even some blues appearing across East Anglia, southeast of England. Again, temperatures indicating temperatures are around the low teens, really poor for the time of year. Best conditions really further northwards, Scotland not too bad, we're getting a cooler air mass. So yes, a bit more sunshine, a bit more dry weather, but temperatures still not particularly great. Hot still across southern Europe. It has eased the heat wave we're seeing there, but still got plenty of hot air around, so still getting up towards the 30s in those regions. If we do just briefly have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation as well, we'll be able to see where the heaviest rainfall has been over the past 24 hours or so, and you can see once again it really is across northern England and western parts, especially into parts of Wales, in 20 to 40 millimetres of rainfall. Could see this enhancing this northern England region over the next 24 hours or so. Fingers crossed it isn't as heavy and it does move away more quickly than anticipated. Again, the only region that's in zero heavy rain is parts of Scotland here. If we do move over to the weather warnings, we do have this yellow rain warning issued for northern Wales and most of northern England from from midnight tonight until midnight tomorrow. Rain heavy at times through Sunday is likely to cause some disruption, particularly to outdoor events. Periods of rain heavy at times will occur across northern England and parts of North Wales during Sunday, bringing fairly widespread 20 to 30 millimetres of rain, with a few places seeing over 50 to 70 millimetres, so around an inch widely, maybe 2 to 3 inches in a few spots. Following a wet Saturday, some impacts are possible to travel and outdoor events. I think this warning definitely is more targeted at the fact that we have got the Gulf in Liverpool and we've got the Ashes up towards Manchester, which is with those two events does affect tens of thousands of people. So issuing this warning is definitely likely to make people sort of heed the rain a little bit more. But it should ease and start to clear during Sunday night. I would put a bit of a caveat on that Sunday night. Could be as early as Sunday lunchtime from what I'm seeing on the latest models. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, again, there are other models to look at, but they are all broadly similar, and it's one of these where it's going to be just a nowcast situation, something that no model will get right. But if we do run through what it showed today, we can see where a bit of a flaw in the model today. So you run through to around sort of 3 p.m. We actually start to get the cricket back on around 3 p.m. 3 p.m. and you can see that the UKV definitely had a gap in the heaviest rain, but still had much of this sort of light to moderate rain around, and not big enough gaps really for things to dry out. But instead, in reality, this gap's been a lot bigger, and the rainfall within the gap has been a lot less intensity. So it actually hasn't been too bad of an afternoon for those regions. Still quite moist, still quite miserable, but not got that heavy rain. As we spread through the evening, we still have that rain lingering, but we're not seeing it anywhere near as much before around that 7, 8 p.m. as we head towards sunset. Heavy rain moves in again. That is looking highly likely. We can already see it forming over Republic of Ireland as we speak. Through the rest of the evening, rain is clear in the south, light patchy rain, but then a heavy band of rain sets up through North Wales and northwest England, carrying on through the whole of the morning. And then around lunchtime, this is where there is a lot of uncertainty. The latest UKV has the rain diminishing. Manchester, just here, starting to go into some lighter rain, could avoid the rain at all, and up towards Liverpool, avoiding the rain here around lunchtime. And as we head through the rest of the afternoon, that energy transfers southwards, and we do see some more heavier rain form further southwards, and through the late hours of Sunday back into North Wales and northwest England. But for most of the afternoon here, plenty of parts within that yellow warning zone are dry. So there is a lot of uncertainty. Different runs will show different outcomes. We'll have a look at the 3 p.m. run from yesterday as well, just to see what that is showing in a minute for precipitation. But if you run through the rest of Sunday, that rain will continue into the early hours of Monday before moving away. Could see some heavy thundery showers through the morning, though, in the far south below that weather front. And then into Monday, it's a cooler, fresher feel with a northerly wind, pretty cold air mass in, so it's not going to feel particularly great, but a lot drier in many regions. So I think people will prefer that. Into Tuesday, plenty of heavy showers around, especially in the north and the east, but again, some sunshine further southwards. And then into Wednesday, another weather system moving in, and another washout of a day, really. It doesn't look too heavy, but plenty of bands of light to moderate rainfall moving in, spreading through into Thursday. If we do look at that 3 p.m. run, I just want to see what it's showing today. Again, you can see heavy rain, a bit more of a gap on the 3 p.m. run, definitely, but still plenty of light to moderate rain, and the rain in the southeast has been a lot heavier than this is showing. As we spread into Sunday, you can see that weather front further northwards does hold its strength all the way to around lunchtime, and doesn't really diminish at all through the evening before eventually pulling away to our south. As you can see, for much of the afternoon, the rainfall is a bit more intact across northern England, doesn't diminish as much, and sort of stays around. So it looks like the weather warning is based probably more off the 3 p.m. run for tomorrow. The latest 3 a.m. run that we've seen this morning, which should have been available by the time they issued the warning, perhaps it wasn't. Definitely does indicate that perhaps that rainfall risk in the afternoon is reduced. There will still be very heavy rain around in the morning. There will be areas with rain in the afternoon, but perhaps quite not as heavy, and it's extensive, which would be a positive for those sporting events and if you are in the north in general, if you've got any plans for tomorrow, as today has been pretty abysmal, apart from the last couple of hours, which have had a brief respite before that heavy rain moves in later this evening. But if we do have a look at the upper air temperatures briefly, you'll be able to see why we've got heavy rain. We've got a warm sector moving at the moment. That's why it's quite muggy out there. And that's why there is a lot of thick cloud and drizzly rain. But as we spread through the next few days, set into Monday, we're into a much cooler sector with northerly winds coming in, which should freshen up before the next weather front does approach with much more warm, humid air once again. The temperatures will not be great over the next few days. Again, you can see today struggling around the mid to low teens in points, maybe high teens in the best places, but really nowhere reaching 20 degrees, abysmal for the second half of July. As we head into Sunday, could just about reach the low 20s in the far south and southeast, with a bit more sunshine and less rain around, but still further northwards it is pretty abysmal under those heavier bounds of rain. Into Monday, could see some area of cooler weather across the far south. Again, a few areas of rain there. Elsewhere, either side could see 18, 19 degrees. And then finally into Tuesday, again, touching 20 degrees. And into Wednesday, struggling, really nowhere reaching 20 degrees. Many mid to high teens or even low teens. So yeah, not looking great over the next 5 days. Still looks like we're in late spring or early autumn with plenty of patches of heavy rain. And those temperatures really nowhere near reflective of what we'd expect in the second half of July, as we are in the peak of summer here. This is when the sun is near its strongest, combined with the hottest air available to our south, really not capitalising at all this year. But could there be a change in the future? The GFS today is suggesting that change could be hot in the longer term. But again, I'll emphasise this will be an anomalous run, but it still is interesting to have a look at it. Very unsettled over the next few days, plenty of low pressure systems around, and you can see into next week quite a deep low approaches from the north and the west, but doesn't quite make its way in, so it doesn't bring too much in the way of windy or rainy weather. Still could be rain around, just not quite as heavy as it could have been with that low coming directly in off the Atlantic. Beyond that, into next weekend, another quite deep low in. That has still got quite a few tight isobars with it, so it could be quite windy, and again, very rainy underneath that. But as we extend into the longer range, high pressure builds to our south a bit more. It doesn't look like a traditionally hot pattern yet. Right towards 384 hours, that low gets pushed well to our north, and we actually see southerly winds starting to build. Look at the upper air temperatures. The 20 degree isotherm is just into our southeast. The temperature deviation is 12 degrees above average, and it is going insanely hot in parts of the United Kingdom here. Again, just by 6 p.m. at this point, we are reaching 30, 31 degrees. But once again, this is when the hottest air hasn't fully arrived yet. The hottest air arrives on the following day, so it would be going insanely hot, mid-30s plus beyond that. And of course, there would be big thunderstorms in the gap. As we can see, the 0 degree isotherm is just off the coast of Scotland. The 20 degree isotherm is in the southeast. Looking at the Cape, nothing too significant yet, but you would expect some big storms to break out in the following days if that hot air did just stay balanced against that cool air with that low pressure system further northwards. So GFS, really interesting day with this ridiculously hot air mass to our south. But at the moment, that is very much an outlier. But yeah, very interesting, the GFS showing that European heatwave coming our way. I do think it is pretty unlikely. We will eventually break this cool, unsettled spell, and a southerly wind could be something that does break it. But is this a sign of change? perhaps something in the longer term, but I wouldn't take this run anywhere near gospel at the moment, as most of the other runs are not showing it, and the ensemble aren't really sniffing at it at all. But interesting seeing the GFS operational having a go at doing something like this in the longer range. If you do look at the GM, again, very unsettled over the coming days. Pretty horrible, really. Plenty of deep blows coming in. Nowhere near as stormy as last weekend, but still could be some strong winds around. And all the way to day 10, we are still seeing lows coming off the Atlantic, but perhaps signs of a brief ridge of high pressure building in. And of course, as this high pressure establishes itself a bit more, we could start to draw up that hot air from the south, but not quite showing it here. Some tentative signs of a bit more higher pressure, a bit more drier weather here. If we look at the precipitation, you can see a drier spell starting to break out across northwest Europe, but we'd have to push this low out of the way, which is very uncertain whether this high pressure would be able to do that. So some small hints of a little bit of improvement, but nothing insanely hot from the end of this GM run. If we do now have a look at the ECMWF, again, very unsettled over the coming days, plenty of stormy weather around. Not quite as stormy as last weekend still, but some deeper lows coming in off the Atlantic with some tighter ice bars at times, so could be some strong gusty winds, perhaps towards next weekend. Beyond that, towards day 10, opposite of GM and GFS, the high pressure is still to our south. Low pressure sat over the top of us, and it is pretty cool and northerly wind coming in. Temperature deviation is average at best, and you can see the very hot air is well to our south. So ECMWF not sniffing at it at all and keeping us incredibly unsettled. Look at the accumulated precipitation. We are just in the firing line of the jet stream, and you can see that from this band of incredibly high amounts of precipitation just coming in all the way from northeast Canada all the way through Scandinavia and northern Europe. This is not where it should be this time of year. This should be a few hundred miles at least further northwards. Sometimes, yes, Scotland does see this, but it is quite unusual to be seeing a proper Atlantic pattern. Not just a few days or a week, but numerous weeks we've had and we're going to have of this unsettled pattern. It is pretty bizarre to see that this year. And you can see Southern Europe is very dry. Huge contrast as we're seeing that with the temperatures as well. If you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see the latest GFS pretty cool over the next sort of week or two, generally around average, if not below average, and considerably below average this upcoming week, and that's why under the rain it's going to feel cold. Plenty of precipitation around. That doesn't really look like it's going to change into early August. Perhaps some tentative signs of the upper air temperatures improving a bit into August, but a few ensemble members going up towards the 10 to 15 degree line, so above average, getting up towards the mid to high 20s perhaps, but still many around average. And you can see the operational run there going off the charts up towards the 20 degree isotherm, right in the extended range. I don't think there's much of a chance of it happening, but very interesting seeing that shown off today. Again, the 2 meter temperatures are pretty abysmal, maybe low 20s at best. Again, that's pretty much average for the time of year, and there could be plenty of days, like perhaps on Wednesday, I've seen those temperatures really poor as that rainfall moved in, and whenever we see some rainfall this week, we'll be quite uncertain when that rain moves in, as even just some thicker cloud and drizzle will hold those temperatures down because of the poor upper air temperatures. But yeah, not looking great. Some anomalous runs going into the high 20s in the longest range, but really nothing great in the next week at least. If you look at the ECMWF ensembles just to finish, again, not great in the next week to 10 days, generally average to below average, plenty of precipitation. Into the first week of August, though, there is some signs from more ensemble members that the temperatures will be average to above average, maybe about a degree or two, and some runs going to the 15 degree line, which would give temperatures maybe around the high 20s, or even touching 30 degrees if it was sustained. So there are signs of things could improve. Remember, we are in the peak summertime, so we don't really need incredible upper air temperatures to be getting that hot conditions at the surface. Again, the average here is around the 10 degree isotherm, which is around 25 degrees. So yeah, we generally just need average to slightly above average to be getting more traditionally warm or hot weather. So that could come as we head into early August. Tentative signs here, but still plenty of precipitation and plenty of cooler runs. So yeah, not looking great in the next week or two. Hopefully things do change. Hopefully that GFS operational run does come to fruition. But unfortunately at the moment, that European heatwave we're seeing further southwards has a very low chance of moving towards us. And generally, anything other than the jet stream has a very low chance of influencing us too much over the next week or two. But there are very small signs, which includes that GFS run today, with some some hope for some hotter weather into August, but we will just have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe over the next few days, all the heavy rain around, and hopefully if you're looking forward to these sporting events, the Open and the Ashes in the next sort of 24 hours or so, hopefully we do see that rainfall diminish through tomorrow and be a little bit more non-existent in the afternoon, like the UKV this morning was trying to nudge towards, and like the models have overdone the rain a bit today. So hopefully we do see a bit of a change. And hopefully we do see a good end to those sporting events as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.